What's going on, people? It's your boy, C-Phrase17 Inspires the Block, and you've tuned in to another one of my YouTube videos. And in this week's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about something that is near and dear to my heart. And this subject matter that I'm going to talk about is how to stay out of prison. Something different than what's normally out there. Like, I watch a lot of YouTube videos on different things about prison. You know, a lot of people like to glorify it. However, they don't talk about the big problem that's going on with, ex-cons right now, and that is recidivism. The recidivism rate is too high right now, and no one is providing a solution to the current problem. And I am somebody who has done time in prison. In fact, I did over 17 years. I got locked up June 26 of 1995, and I didn't get out till 2012. And what I've done to make sure that I have a successful transition since I've been out is that before I got out, I applied a set of principles. Well, first I developed a set of principles that would help me stay out, because I never wanted to go back. It was something that I hated. It was something that I never enjoyed, not one time. And what I wanted to do was to make sure that I wouldn't be another statistic, that I wouldn't be somebody that got out of prison and went back. And what I did is I've developed 5 different principles that I would apply to my life to help me stay out of prison. Because for one, prison does not help you when it comes to staying out. They don't give you the tools to make a successful transition from doing time and to ultimately staying out of prison. So this is something that you have to do on your own. And I had to habilitate myself, because the average person that goes to prison, they are never rehabilitated. This is one of the biggest lies that is ever told, is that they hope that when somebody gets out of prison, they hope that they stay or that they are rehabilitated. But you can never be rehabilitated if you've never been habilitated. And so these 5 principles that I'm about to talk about, that I first and foremost wrote about, which is called Right Glasses, Wrong Prescription. It is a book that I've written, and right now I'm in the edit stages of it. And what I want to talk about is how I apply these principles. And if these principles are applied correctly to those that's getting out of prison, then we can reduce the recidivism rate when it comes to a lot of ex-cons getting out of prison. If we apply these principles, then we don't need nobody to pass some law dealing with criminal justice reform. There's still some fine tuning that need to be done, because a lot of prisoners are at a disadvantage when they get out, when it comes to housing, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to voting. Of course, those things need to be dealt with. However, I want to deal with the things that keeps us out. I want to show people how to stay out of prison. So I developed 5 principles. The first principle is called spirituality, or keeping the faith. The second principle that I developed, that I apply to my life, is called family, value the family. A third one is called environmentality, or how our thinking adapts to the environment. Another one is wanting more than 3 hots in a cot. And another principle, which is the 5th principle that I apply to my life, which is loving the world. It's so beautiful. The world has a lot to offer. And in this week's episode of my YouTube video, I want to deal with the first principle that I always apply to my life, okay? And that is spirituality. All right, I'm not talking about religious. I'm talking about being very spiritual, because the average person that goes to prison develops some type of spiritual principle that guides them while they're incarcerated. What is that saying? Everybody goes to prison and get in religion. Yeah, in a lot of cases, this is true. And when a person is in prison and they decide to develop a relationship with the Most High, what they're doing is that they're dealing with an unnatural reality. So what they do is tap into a source to help them cope and help them deal with this reality. And normally the average person reaches towards God. And so what I did was, when I was incarcerated, I had the privilege of studying the Nation of Islam teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as given to by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And as time went on, I started studying different religions, and then ultimately I ended up studying Jehovah's Witness and a lot of other different things. Now, I'm far from a religious person, but what I am is a highly spiritual person. And so these same things that principles or practices that I learned in prison, I brought those home with me, because I understood that I am nothing and I can't make this transition on my own without the spiritual principles that guided me for 17 years while I was incarcerated. And so the thing that I want to share with a lot of my ex-cons, a lot of people that's getting out of prison right now, is that for those that are applying some level of spirituality to their lives while they're in their cell blocks, is that to bring that home with you. I'm not saying practice the rigorous rituals that you did while you were incarcerated, but the very principle of having a relationship with the Most High, regardless of what name you call him by, bring that principle home with you. Because this will be the very foundation that you would have to be successful on making a transition from at one point in time being a prisoner, now a citizen. Like the same importance that you had when you were incarcerated, studying the Bible, the Quran, or whatever religious sect that you studied while you were incarcerated, bring those principles home with you. Because these same principles will guide you in your day-to-day life in society the same way they did while you were incarcerated. You know, those religious principles steered you from certain things that was going on, or certain activities that were going on when you were behind those walls. And those same religious principles can guide you while you're free. So in this week's episode, I want all of you guys who are focused on staying free, I want you to focus on your spirituality that you had while you were incarcerated. Because you got to understand something, that, you know, the Department of Corrections, whether it's federal or state, they're not going to help you stay out. Your PO is not your friend. It's all up to you to make a successful transition and stay out of prison. It's up to you to maintain your freedom and get off parole so that you can be a free person. And the thing that I want to exercise, that I want you guys to exercise, is the fact that you have to continue your high level of spirituality like you did in prison, the same way out here in society. This is what I do continuously. I maintain my high level of spirituality. I'm not perfect. I'm not an angel, and I'm not walking accordingly like I would want to when it comes to my spirituality. However, I do keep that in the forefront of my thinking, and I use that as my foundation to maintain my freedom. I love being free. Prison is for losers. And if you never develop that way of thinking, then you will never see that you're losing in the game of life if you continuously go back and forth to prison. Even if you go for the very first time in your life, you're still a loser. You're not even in the game. You're not in the game of life if you're incarcerated. I don't care if it's even in the jail. You're not in the game of life. So let's continue to practice these high levels of spirituality that we had when we were incarcerated, now that we're free. I guarantee you that you will have a sense of serenity. You will have a sense of purpose, and you will have a sense of direction if you maintain your spiritual principles while you're free. Because that is the part that counts the most. Worshiping God in prison really don't count, in my opinion. What it helps you to do is to develop that relationship with the Most High, but the total impact of being a spiritual person, you cannot exercise if you're not in the right environment to fully execute your spirituality. It's almost like semen, so to speak, or sperm. Sperm has no purpose unless it's placed in the right environment, which is in the womb of a woman. And that's how your spirituality is. Like I said, you can have some sense of peace, worshiping God while you're incarcerated. But to benefit from the full effect of it, you have to do it in society. God never meant for us to be incarcerated and worship him. Never. That was never part of his plan, never part of his scheme of things. So this is why I encourage you to maintain that level of spirituality now that you're free. And so this is a principle that I apply continuously to my life. It works for me. This is why I'm able to stay out for as long as I have, going on 6 years. Because I make sure that I understand that the reason why I am free today, it is because of the blessings of the Most High, the creator of the heavens and the earth. And I continuously remind myself and thank him for giving me this opportunity to be free, and also to do stuff like this, like YouTube videos. You can't do that from prison. You can't exercise your gifts, skills, and talents if you are in prison, especially the ones that are God-given to you. So once again, in this week's episode, let's maintain a high level of spirituality to guide us while we're out. And if we can do that, I guarantee you the probability of us going back to prison diminishes a whole lot. Once again, this is your boy C-Phrase17 Inspires the Block. You are watching my YouTube video on how to stay out of prison. Next week, we'll talk about, or we'll discuss, the second principle that I apply to my life, which is valuing my family. Because family has an intricate, or is an intricate part in your development or staying out of prison. Because at the end of the day, your family is the one that are your ride or die. It ain't your homeboy. It ain't your girl. It ain't none of them. The loyalty comes from the family, and it's those ones that makes the sacrifices continuously, day in and day out, to make sure they're by your side while you're incarcerated. So next week we'll talk about it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also too, you can find me on Live from the Kitchen podcast. I'm on iTunes and also iHeartRadio, Live from the Kitchen podcast. And you can also find me on Instagram at C-Phrase17 Inspires the Block. Also on Twitter at C-Phrase17 Inspires. If you need any kind of daily dosage of inspiration to guide you throughout the day, just hit me up on my social media platforms, and I'll have something there for you that will help you throughout the day, okay? Once again, this is your boy C-Phrase17 Inspires the Block, and have a blessed day on purpose. Salute.